Hey guys, welcome to my first ever YouTube video with my cousin Nads in the background.
Hey.
Gads, like, say your name.
Gaddy. Hi. It's me behind the camera. My name's Ngadi, and I'm here. I'm ready to get into it.
Alright. Okay, so today I'm gonna basically transform this wig that I've made, which is looking really long and glamorous, into something that's a bit more spooky just for Halloween. So I'm gonna color it, and today I'm gonna be doing some hues of red and orange in the hair. So the tools that I'm gonna be using today are sectioning clips, a pintail comb, a coloring bowl and a brush, a balayage board, some highlighting foil, some peroxide and some bleach powder. The peroxide I'm using today is 9%, just because I really want to get a good lift on the hair, and instead of it looking really light, I want it to look really vibrant. Okay.
Let's get both of them up.
Okay, so I'll be using the Adore in ginger, and I'll be using the VR in crimson. These are the two colors that I'll be using today. For the coloring process, you're also going to need a medium to large size bowl in plastic ideally, and you will need a kettle with boiling hot water. And it sounds crazy, but that's just me. So let's crack on. All right. Oh, before I forget, there will be a point where I'm gonna add a little bit of oil into the bleach. That's just because I really want to protect the condition of the hair. And most people will tell you that this isn't something that you should do, but I don't really listen to most people. I just do my own thing because I'm a rock star. So let's.
What kind of oil is that?
So this is just the Nourishing Hair Oil. It's very heavy. It's really dense. And I personally don't think it's something that you can really use on your hair, because I think if you use it on your hair, you need to wash it out. So that's why it's good to add just a drop into the color, because you are going to need to wash it out anyway. It's going to create a protective barrier with the bleach, so it's not going to leave the hair feeling dry after it's been colored. It will still feel somewhat like hair. So
some like a heat protectant?
Kind of like a color protectant.
Okay.
So I'm just going to make sure that this closure is split right down the middle. And I'm going to work on it from a forwards direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, let me lift this up so that you can see a little bit better. I'm going to start by combing through the hair.
To make sure it's not got any knots.
Exactly, basically. And then what I'm going to start is by taking a very small section, really fine slice throughout the front of the hair.
Baby hairs.
Baby hairs, exactly. But to be honest with you, the baby hairs is the most important part to colour, because this is what makes it look natural or makes it look fake. So I take those baby hairs and then I clip everything else behind it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to weave this really close and really fine together.
So you're
weaving. So what this does is it separates the hair. So that's what creates the highlight, because then you're colouring some of the hair but not all of it.
Yeah. Okay.
So with the weave, what I'm going to do is, instead of using the weave, which I would normally use, which would be this bit, I'm actually going to clip that behind, and the reverse of the weave is what I'm going to use.
Okay.
So whatever falls out, that's what I'm actually going to colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm then going to move on to the next side, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I do this before I mix up the colour, because I kind of want everything to process, especially just at the very front, because it's the most noticeable part, I want it to process at very similar timings. So I just want to get this section out of the way so that when I'm ready to foil, I can just foil these two. Then it doesn't matter so much if I foil one and then the other, because at least the front is going to look very consistent. So again, okay.
So what are you pouring in there?
So this is the peroxide that I'm now mixing in with the bleach. And with bleach, it's very down to personal taste. I like it so that it is not too thick, because I think once it's too thick, it's like you can't really do too much with it. And if it's too runny, then it just slides everywhere and you still can't do anything with it. So I'm just gonna mix this until it becomes, I'm trying to think of what the consistency would be.
Toothpaste?
Do you know what? I'd say just a slightly watery toothpaste. You know, like when you was, I don't know, it depends on how hood you are, but like, you know, like when you was younger and like your parents was there, you was getting to the end of the toothpaste, and then they would put just a tiny bit of water, they cut the end off and put a tiny bit of water in so that you could shift that toothpaste down. It's like, that's the kind of taste. Yeah, obviously. That's
been economical.
I didn't say there was nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, it depends, you know? So,
can like people at home use aluminium foil?
Let me tell you, kitchen foil has saved me on so many occasions. Okay, so when I was younger, like I used to go to my client's house and do like their highlights and stuff. There was so many times when I couldn't even afford foil, because let me tell you, hair foil is expensive, like £15 a roll, and I'm thinking £15. I was like, I can spend it on other stuff. I was like, so cool, let me just use Sainsbury's kitchen foil. And I just cut into finish.
Oh, you rich Sainsbury's.
Sainsbury's was the closest to most people's house, you know. Not everyone's got a Sainsbury's. Not everyone has a Tesco. Not everyone's got an Asda. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start by putting my comb into the back on the shiny side of the foil and flip the foil over the comb. I'm then going to take the hair that I've left for my section out. I'm going to lift and place it in the foil. Okay. And when you're painting, make sure that you do not paint the actual closure. So use the tip of your brush to just stop just before you get to the closure. Because if you color the closure, it's going to bleach the actual color of the closure. Sorry about that, guys. You know, a bit of the old technical difficulties. This is video number 1, so allow me. And I'm just gonna, like I was saying before, I'm just gonna use just the tip of my brush just to paint the color as close to the closure as possible, but without actually touching the closure. So I'm getting right to it, but I'm not putting any color on the closure. Then I'm gonna color throughout the rest of the hair, through to the ends, wrap up in half, wrap in half again, maybe not complete half.
Quarter.
Yeah, somewhere between like 2/3 or something like that, I don't know.
Right, fam.
Listen.
Don't come for me at maths, you were the mathematician.
Listen, why are you coming for me? And this one should be about 1 millimeter thick. So the last one should be about 0.5 millimeter. This one should be about 1 millimeter thick. And do you know what? I can't even lie. That is literally the best meme that's ever made. Like, I will never get over it.
You love a bit of Jasmine.
I love the old Jasmine Masters.
Did you watch her with Tiffany?
Tiffany, HBIC. Tiffany Madison.
No. New York.
New York Pollard. No, I haven't seen that.
Her and Tiffany had a brunch date.
Oh yeah.
And they were like discussing the meme.
I'm dead. Okay, so again, next section, I'm going to go in and I'm going to weave. And again, I'm actually going to use the dropout rather than the actual weave. And like I say, it's just because I want it to look as natural as possible. So I'm going to clip that out the way. And because the front is going to look perfect, so to me, I'm not so concerned about the next section behind it. Alright. So, now for the last bit with the foils, it's going to be ever so slightly different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, take a millimeter thick section. And I'm going to weave again. And then instead of weaving the dropout, colouring the dropout, I'm going to colour the actual weave this time. And the reason is because I want a bit of definition. I want some separation between the two colours. And I feel like if I just put another dropout, then it's just going to be too bright through the front, and then there's not going to be a multi-tonality. So when I want to colour it later, it's going to be just a little bit harder. So again, as close to the root as possible, but without touching the lace. If you feel like there's ever any patches which are just a bit too heavy, you can use the tip corner of the brush and then just swipe it into the rest of the hair, and that will just take out the heaviness out of that section. Again, paint all the way down. And then I just go in with balayaging. So, in order to balayage, what I'm going to do...
What's the definition of balayage?
Balayage is a freehand painting technique. That's all it means. So, balayage doesn't mean highlights, it doesn't mean ombre, it doesn't mean from darker to lighter. Balayage just means you're painting the colour freehand. So, instead of me putting a foil and painting the colour into the foil, I'm painting the colour just by eye. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to not work side by side, but I'm going to work in unison. So I'm going to take just slightly more than a millimeter thickness of the section. Oh, and out.
Oh.
And out. Do you know what I really love? Have you ever seen that little black piglet running across and then it stops and it goes and out?
No. That sounds funny, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this, I'm going to weave this, and what I do is I take my balayage board, place it underneath the hair, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a V. So I'm going to come close towards the root and make a V shape with my brush. And then I'm going to use just the tip of the brush just to diffuse those ends. We're going to work in shapes of V's and A's because I find for me that they look the most natural and they're the easiest to blend out. So, again, another inch section. Gonna weave, put my board underneath, and this time again,
same board, you don't clean it?
No, don't have to clean it. So now I'm going to do an A shape. So I'm going to come down here and do an A shape. Diffuse my ends. And then paint the colour throughout the rest of the hair. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this all the way through until I get to the top. But every time I take another section, I'm going to make the section just a tiny bit wider than the section before, just because it's going to just help to diffuse that line out more so that when we get to the back it will look as natural as it can do. Okay, so on this side I did a V before, so now I'm going to do an A. And then on the other side where I did an A before, I'm going to do a V. as I'm moving up, I am bringing everything further and further down. I know it don't make no sense now because I look like a crazy person every time I do this, but actually it's going to make a whole bunch of sense when I'm done, because you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, oh, I totally get that now. That makes a lot more sense. Like I say, these videos are going to be packed full of information. Yeah, there may be some jokes and banter going on in the background, but at the end of the day, it's also to teach you how to get the best out of your wigs and make them look as natural as possible. So if people look at you and they go, oh my God, you've got great hair, as opposed to thinking like, oh my God, you're wearing a wig. Man wigs.
Branding.
Let me tell you.
Marketing. Marketing.
So if you do like any of the wigs that I make, you can check me out on Instagram at manwigs or at Roman Sam. I'll put the link in the description below. Then you can see some of the wigs that I do. If you like any of them, just hit me up in the DMs, you know.
Down in the DMs.
Down in the DMs. And then we can, you know, talk. We can chit chat, we can conversate, you know. We can do all them bits. Okay, so now I'm getting towards the back. It doesn't make sense for me to split it in two anymore because this is probably going to lay back anyway, and also because the section is not wide enough that it's worth splitting in two, but it's not too thin. So I'm just going to again weave this, but with this one I'm going to make the weaves just a bit chunkier. And because this is a slightly wider section, instead of doing a V or an A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a W.
Oh my goodness, I actually guessed that.
I know, right?
Wow, I'm so smart.
All right, darling. Okay, and again, we're going to diffuse out the edges of the W and a swoop and a doop. Do you know who I really love on YouTube? Nicole TV. I just think she's hilarious. Do you know who else I love on YouTube? I am Miloho.
I don't think I know that person.
Well, you need to know her because she's
I'm
telling
okay.
you, yeah. I'm telling you. What's up, mother suckers? She says that every time, but I love it. She's fun. Okay, and then for the very last one at the back, can you guess what shape we're going to do?
I'm going to guess a W.
We're not actually going to do a W.
Maybe an N. Or an M.
Oh! No, because when I heard N, I was thinking, where are we going with this? Where are we going? And when I heard M, I was like, oh my God, you got it right. Okay. 10 points for you.
Thank you.
You go, Glen Coco.
Who's Glen Coco?
From Mean Girls.
Oh.
4 for you, Glen Coco. You go, Glen Coco.
Do you know who I thought it was? I thought it was, remember back in the day when people used to crump?
Ah, yeah.
I feel like that's like a good crump name.
Glen Coco. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of drops of oil into the colour. So I'm just going to add a few drops. A little bit. It smells like tea tree, doesn't it?
It's not tea tree oil, though.
It's not tea tree oil. It's got rosemary. I think it's rosemary. Rosemary.
Tell us those oils.
Yeah, with rosemary.
Hey.
See, my nose is really just up there. You know, it's really adapt. You know, I've just got one of those classy noses that can just tell different things. Yeah.
You're a dickhead.
Don't be a dickhead. Don't you be that dickhead. You know? Rock and roll, baby. Okay, so. Sis.
Wow, she really is proud.
Let me tell you, like I say, with my wigs, I don't like them really glam. I don't like them full. I like them to look like a natural person's hair would look. So yeah, you are gonna have gaps like this in my wigs because it's gonna look, when everything is down, people will be like, sis, your hair grew from nowhere. And you'll be like, I know. Then, when you get home at night time, you just plonk that thing off your head, drop it next to you. She's sitting by your side, isn't she?
Side to side, Nicki
Side to
Minaj,
side. Ooh.
Ariana.
I'm telling you, all the girls, bringing them all out. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave again through the sides, but I'm going to do quite chunky weaves. And when I paint, I'm going to start first of all by doing a really long slide. So I'm going to start from the tip of my brush in the corner and slide all the way down the side of the hair, just the side here, because I just want to paint this a little bit higher than everything else so it looks a bit closer to the root, which will give it just that little bit more natural look. So once I've done that, then I'm going to go in with quite a deep V on this one. But instead of painting my V, I'm going to guide the V along ever so slightly with the edge of my brush, because I don't want the color to be really heavy. I want the color to be very subtle. I want it to be soft. Then I'm going to go in through about halfway down, and I'm going to really press that color in, so then we have a very soft blend of color coming from the root down to the ends. And the good thing is with the oil acts as a little bit of an inhibitor, so it's not going to allow the color to process too quickly, which is great for us, because if the color processes too quickly, then it will be too bright, and that's not what I want. I want it to still look natural. I want it to look soft. Keyword, natural. Keyword, soft. So color it this way. So say for example, in the future, if I ever want to change the color, because I get really bored of the colors, I don't want to keep them all the same all the time. And obviously this is Halloween, for my Halloween collection, so I don't want to keep the colors orange and red. I may want to change them to browns or things like that. So this is a great way to color as a technique, so that when I do want to change the color, all I have to do is just use something like a really strong washing up liquid and just cleanse all the color out.
Washing up liquid? Washing up liquid. Fairy?
Yeah, fairy. Fairy's really good for stripping out things like crazy colors, and for directions in a door and vehicles, because they're semi-permanent, so the washing up liquid will grab the tone out of the hair, so then when you do want to put something like a brown on top of it, you'll be able to do so. So instead of having to recolor it in the future, all I have to do is just wash it with washing up liquid, put my brown color on top. So yeah, it takes longer to do it this way, but it's more effective for the future, because then you have a lot more play with the hair moving forward. Okay, next section. Okay. Okay. Right, and again, we're going to go in with the balayage board, and we're going to do again another really loose drop down V. So if you ever see me painting here first, it's just to get the excess color off the brush, so that when I'm painting through the sides, instead of having like super big gloops of color, it's just going to come across as like a really wispy line. See that? Because the brush is not overloaded with color. If I went straight in with color on that section, it will have a huge gloop which will show up as a bleed later on when I wash the color off. Which is why it's a good idea to do these things on heads, especially because then you can see how the color is going to fall. So now you can see that through here, the color is going to be softer through here and more dense through the ends. It's already changing through the top, which is great, because then it means that we're going to get quite a good result out of it. So I'm going to move on to the other side, and I'm going to do that off cam, and then I'll come back for the back.
You can go.
So now we're filming for the back. And with the back, it's actually the easiest part, because you'd never want the hair to be as bright in the back as it is in the front, so you're not going to take sections as small as you do around the front. The smaller your section, the brighter the lift. The bigger your section, the lower the lift. And the reason is because the bleach isn't going to be able to pack through all that hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, as you can see, I'm taking about... Sorry guys, lighting difficulties.
Bit spooky.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, where's Casper? Casper, you here? Just because we're filming Halloween content don't mean you gotta just boo. So I'm taking about, I'm gonna say this is about 2 or 3 wefts in this.
So the tracks.
2 or 3 tracks, yep. I call them wefts because
I'm professional.
I'm a professional. And I'm going to weave them in really chunky sections. So you'll see, like, it will be like half the hair in, half the hair out, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just through the top section. I'm just going to go in with the board, and I'm just going to paint up in really rough strokes, right? And again, you always want to make sure that the ends of your hair are never looking really blocky. You always want to diffuse those out. I'm just going to go through the ends and just really apply them as deeply as you can. So you just want to really just push as much of the product into the hair as you can do. Flip the hair around and then do the same on the opposite side. Because if you do not do that, what you're going to have is one side which colors and then one side which doesn't, which is going to leave for a very messy color job. Right, next section we're going to do the same thing, but at the end what we're going to do is we're just going to take in the dropout sections with the brush, just going to swipe along just in very soft highlights. Very soft highlights, and we'll go through, comb it through the ends.
So you're using a fish tail comb?
I'm still using my pintail comb. I've not used any other combs except for this, and the reason is because we're going to scrape most of the colour off, but I just want the ends of the hair to just be a little bit softer. I don't want them to be as dark as it is now, because otherwise the contrast is going to look too much. If you soften out those ends a little bit, instead of them being black, they'll be like a softer brown, which I think works better with reds and oranges, because not only will this be a Halloween wig, it's also quite autumnal. You know? I quite like that word, autumnal.
Autumnal.
Autumnal. It sounds really posh, you know. Oh yes, I love those autumnal colours. So, this is the whole head done. Everything is all finished, everything is all coloured. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the wig off the head block, and I'm going to put it inside a plastic bag. And then I'm going to keep this inside a warm cupboard, like an airing cupboard, or maybe even under the heater for a good 20 minutes. And then I'll come back to it when it's done, because by that point it should have processed. And if not, then I know I just need to put it back in the bag, maybe spray a bit of water inside the bag just to keep it moist, so then it can continue to develop. Guys, I'm back with my handy big old bowl and the little kettle that I mentioned before. So
we've washed out the doll's hair.
Exactly, we've washed it out. I've just used a cleansing shampoo just to make sure that all the bleach, all the colouring product is out of the hair completely. So as you can see, in fact, let me show you.
What shampoo would you recommend?
Anything that is cleansing, anything that says a cleansing shampoo, because it's going to be really good at taking out the bleach and taking out the products from the hair. So if I just show you, if I pull this back, you can see around the front we're really bright, and as we travel further back we're getting darker and darker and darker. You'll notice the result more once it's dry, because you'll see it stand out a bit more. But in terms of colouring, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the front more orange, and I'm going to make the back more red. So it's going to be a two-tone colour. But like I say, this is Halloween inspired, so I'm just kind of experimenting as well and trying to see like what kind of different colour techniques could work and make it look a little bit more cool. So in order to make the colour, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in my bowl, I'm going to apply my ginger colour. Alright, and then with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the kettle after it's boiled, and I'm going to put...
Is this the hot water method?
This is the hot water method. I'll tell you, since I discovered it, well, since I've been watching it on YouTube, I figured it's the best. So I'm just going to use the end of my comb, because I don't want to use any of my forks or any of my kitchen utensils to do this. And the whole point of this is just to make this just a little bit more orangey, because I'm gonna make the back of it red. If you put enough colour in, then it will grab more. if you don't put enough colour in, it's not going to grab at all. So again, you just want to make sure that, again, you're pushing that lace in as well, because you just want to make sure that the root of all that hair is coloured.
Would it bleach? Would it change the colour of the lace?
No. Because it is a gingery colour and it's quite fair, it's not going to change the colour of the lace.
But if I put a pink in, it might change the...
It would stain, but in order to prevent that, the best way I say is to use some Vaseline and just to put that on both sides of the lace, like right at the root. And I know Vaseline is very difficult to wash out, but it is honestly the best way to make sure. So now it's just gone a bit more orangey, which is what I wanted. I don't want it to be too scary. I'm not going for pumpkin colour. I'm just going for orangey. And again, I'm just going to dip it in just a little bit more. It's not making too much more of a difference, but it's just to make sure that all that hair has been covered and all that hair is saturated with water, because any part of the hair that doesn't get saturated deeply with water, it's not going to colour. All right. So now I'm going to do the red for the colour. So I've literally just holding the other end and I'm just going to pour this crimson, and I'm going to go quite liberal with it because we have more of the hair to colour.
It's quite a bit.
Yeah, because I want this to be stronger than the orange.
It smells nice.
It does, doesn't it? It's really like fruity, kind of like strawberry.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it's made of. I'm joking. But, you know, for all of yous out there, go get Via Colour. It smells great.
Can you get this in like a...
yeah, in packs or in any of your like local beauty supply stores. I sound American by saying beauty supply stores. I'm not American. I am English.
Oh, we can hear the South in you, babe.
Let me tell you, you can pop hear South London in me, mate. He'll be like, where are you from? And I'm like, really? Do I even need to say?
Did you hear the... Oh, you're not on Twitter.
Okay.
There was...
So,
I was going to tell you a story about...
No, go ahead. Tell me.
Southwest and Southeast, and they were saying Southwest is a premium area, and they were saying that Southeast is budget. Really rude.
Scheme. Southwest is full of boring people. Southeast is where it's at. And let me tell you something about Southeast and Southwest London. When I talk about South London, I'm not talking about Southwest. I'm only talking about Southeast.
Yeah.
Because who the fuck cares about Southwest London? Southwest Londoners. Alright, so now that that's done...
You can really see the colour.
You can, can't you? That's the thing with the red. The red is really vibrant because it's crimson, and I really want the orange. I just want it to be different. I want it to be like an orange and then a red.
Colour, yeah.
Exactly.
So what kind of conditioners would you recommend?
So for me, I always say let's go for something more moisturising or something colour locking.
Okay.
I always pick moisture over colour lock. So if you're deciding what to pick, always go for moisture over colour lock, because moisture will hold in colour, whereas colour lock, the hair already has to be healthy before you hold in colour.
Yeah.
Now because you've bleached it, the hair's not going to be as healthy as if you hadn't bleached it. So to moisturise the hair will just seal those cuticles and lock the colour in a little bit better. So again, like I said, I'm going to do all of that off cam, and then I'll come back once everything is all blow dried, so then you can see the final result.